Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Corey Palm Tanner lifts it. Head coach Tony Ersland and a special guest, about as special as they come. Kenny Monday joins us this go around. Kenny, coach, great to see you.
Thank you. It's great to see you guys too, man. Great to see you guys too. Big smiling face.
Not that this guy needs a ton of introduction, but we'll go through a little bit of it ourselves here. Three-time national finalist at Oklahoma State, 1984 national champion, 1988 Olympic gold medal, 1992 silver Olympic medal, 1989 world champion. There is probably a lot in between all of those things that I am leaving out, but Corey, I'm going to kick this to you just because you have some memories as far as what Mr. Monday did and how he achieved at that level.
Absolutely, Kenny. Like Tanner said, the litany, wrestling Hall of Famer. You know, you've done it all. You've seen it all. I want to start with the basics. You grew up in Oklahoma, so right. Wrestling's kind of bred in you, I would imagine. But But what drew you to the sport?
Man, that is a great question. And I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and back in the '60s, I was born in '61. So by the time I started wrestling at 4 or 5 at the YMCA, wrestling was a hotbed in Oklahoma. I mean, we had so many teams. We probably had 70 kid teams. Like they weren't even called clubs. They were like wrestling teams. We had like elementary teams and junior high teams, and so it was really a hotbed of wrestling. And fortunately, once we started wrestling, we had some wrestling families, and we'd have the opportunity. We go down and watch Oklahoma State wrestle. Stillwater's only like an hour away from Tulsa, so we go watch Oklahoma State. We go watch OU, and so I grew up, and I tell people this all the time. I was just exposed to greatness early. So by the time I was 10, that was around the '72 Olympics, and you had Gables and Wayne Wells, and Wayne Wells was from Oklahoma. I met Chris Taylor, got his autograph when I was 8 years old, and he was the biggest thing I've ever seen. He was the biggest man ever. This dude was 400 pounds, and it took me like 30 minutes to work up my nerve to go get his autograph. I thought he was going to eat me, but and so I was exposed to greatness early, man. Watching Jimmy, because that whole '72 team, I got a chance to interact with those guys and get all their autographs, and so I was just exposed early, man. And then so it was like, when you see that level of wrestling, it just does something to you. It just does something to you. And so once I started, man, I was ingrained, and I loved it, and I was just always a student. I'd go see these matches, and I'd come back, and I'm like trying to hit all these different things that I saw. And I just started at the YMCA. I have 2 older brothers that started before I did. At the YMCA was like down the street from my elementary school. And so our parents would after school, we would just walk to the YMCA, and our parents would come and pick us up after practice. And that's kind of how we started, man. We just never looked back.
Okay. Well, it helped that you were able to put those lessons to work. You were pretty good in high school, pretty good in junior high, undefeated through your high school career, except for that one tie. I'm not going to ask you about that tie.
You can ask me about the tie. I take pride in that, man.
You take pride. That's probably the one that sticks with you most, huh?
Absolutely. Mike Sheets. Mike Sheets became my teammate.
Okay, another legend there.
Yeah, another legend. Yeah. So Sheets. Once we battled in high school, and we did a little bit there as kids too. I wrestled a couple times as kids, but then so once we battled, man, Chesbro was our coach, and Chesbro said we're getting both these guys. And so then, and I was happy because he tied me. He was my only blemish on my record, right? And then we wrestled like a week after that, and I beat him in a tournament. But I was happy because I get to beat him for the next 5-6 years, right? for tying me. So I was excited about that. But it's just growing up and just had a great culture in Oklahoma. It was really didn't have to leave Oklahoma. I mean, it was so good. The competition was so good and exciting that it was really fun growing up in Oklahoma because I didn't leave much. I mean, I went to Iowa a couple of times for matches. I wrestled Barry Davis when I was in the 8th grade at a tournament in Iowa. And, but yeah, just Oklahoma was just a hotbed.
That's interesting to
And
think.
I didn't lose a match, dude. I didn't lose a match from 7th grade to the 12th grade. I didn't lose a match regular season.
That's crazy to think of him and Barry wrestling, huh, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, that's taking it way back, right?
Looking
I mean,
at the two of them now, that
where
doesn't
they're
seem
at,
like a fair matchup.
And check this story out. And I'll tell the story. I didn't even realize it was Barry, right? So it was on our junior high team. I think it was like 90 pounds or something. And so I go to the tournament, right? And so I'm getting ready to wrestle Barry. I had him in the semis. And I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. But it was I knew he was good because of like all the kids. There was like a lot of kids watching the match, right? I'm like, oh, this kid must be good. He draws a crowd, right? And he was like he is now. He's just a go-getter. He's just a rough, tough kid. I beat him 9-0, but I remember I had to freaking earn every point. And so it was years later. I'm in my dad's house. I mean, it was like maybe 2000s or something, right? And I go through this closet and I pull out this old bracket. And I'm looking at the bracket, and Barry Davis is on the Emmitsburg bracket in the semis. I'm like, man, that was, and I remember the kid because I knew he was a tough little kid. Man, that was Barry Davis. So I couldn't wait to see Barry. I couldn't wait to see him. And I the next time I saw Barry, I go, Barry, I'm going out there. I go through this closet. I pull out this bracket, and you're on my bracket. He's, oh yeah, Monday. You kick my butt. You kick my butt. Right? You kick my butt.
Now, did you say that was in Emmitsburg?
Emmitsburg, Iowa. Yeah.
Iowa. That's my neck of the woods right there, Kenny. Yeah. I grew up in north central Iowa in Emmitsburg. I wrestled in the Emmitsburg tournament.
Yeah.
From a little kid all the way through a senior in high school as well. Yeah. So that is really funny.
You know the tournament, yeah. So that was a piece of history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Sure. Kenny, how easy was the decision? You know, you like you said, you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma State's an hour down the road. What was the decision like to go to Oklahoma State? Was it a foregone conclusion? Were there other teams in play? What was the deal there?
It was such a battle. It was such a recruiting battle it came down between OU and OSU, and it was such a freaking battle. It was crazy. I mean, these guys, it was stupid, man. It was like they would show up on my door at 1 minute, and then, the next one would leave, and the next one would come, and it was a serious battle. Because I grew up in Oklahoma. Of course, there were years where I was OU, right? Of course, the whole OU thing, and they had, again, Wayne Wells wrestled at OU. I had some guys that the Brees brothers, Gary Brees and Steve Brees. I don't remember those names. Those guys were from Tulsa, and they were great OU, wrestlers, All-American national champs. I followed those guys, Dave McQuaig, So there were some guys that I grew up watching. They were like child prodigies that went to OU. And so there were years where I was pro OU, and then there was other years where I was Oklahoma State fan. So I felt like them both. And so it just came down to, and then of course when my brothers were at OU during the time. They were both, my older brother Mike and Jim was at University of Oklahoma. And so, and then the Dave Schultz and Mark Schultz they had probably the best team when I came out. They had 9 running All-Americans. Oh. My senior in high school, they had 9 All-Americans that year. They had a great team. And so it really just came down to Leroy Smith was at Oklahoma State, and he graduated. And coming out of high school, I wanted to wrestle right away. I didn't want to redshirt. I never did redshirt. I wanted to wrestle right away. Leroy had just graduated at 142. Andre Metzger was at OU. He was a starter at OU, and he, Andre Metzger, national champ, great individual. And so I knew at that point I couldn't beat Andre. So OU was like, well, either you go 34, which wasn't going to happen. That was too big.
Yep.
Or you redshirt, and then because they had. Roger Frizzell was at 150, right? So they had a stacked lineup. And so I didn't want a red shirt. I wanted to wrestle right away. And so OU had that opening. OSU had the opening. And really kind of came down to that. And I kind of felt a little more comfortable with Oklahoma State. OU, man, those guys were just kind of all over the place a little bit. But they had great talent. And so really I could go to Oklahoma State and start right away. And so it really kind of came down to that. to be honest, really. It kind of came down to that.
Nice. Amazing career. Like I said, 3-time finalist, got the top of that podium in 1984. And it didn't stop there. Obviously, you went on into a really nice freestyle career. Tony alluded to this yesterday. Maybe I'll let him kind of I'll toss this to him a little bit, but what was that journey from that national title in 84 to the Olympics in 88 like? And I know Tony had some thoughts on it as well.
Well, the only thing I was telling Tanner about, Kenny, I'm sorry, it was just that I just remember it was kind of the changing of the guard watching you and Dave Schultz, right? And what that was like for a guy like me, because I graduated high school in 92. So, of course, 84 to 88 and then through 92 was when I was running hot and heavy in North Central Iowa, and wrestling was just like you, right? It was wrestling country, and we all had the people we watched. So just watching you and Dave Schultz had distinct memories for me, and what that was like watching you kind of take the crown, if you will, and run with it. So that was my memories. I was kind of telling Tanner about with you coming through at that time.
Yeah. No, it was a huge mountain to climb, right? And really, to be honest, just making the jump from folk style to freestyle at that point was that was a huge mountain to climb in itself. Because all through college, I never wrestled freestyle or any tournaments through college. It was just about folk style. I didn't go to any opens or freestyle tournaments in the summer. I just worked and we just trained and we just kind of stayed within that. Because really, our coach, Chesbro, wasn't a freestyle guy. He was just straight folk style. He was all about Oklahoma State. He didn't care about freestyle wrestling. You couldn't find him after season, really. He was out fishing and hunting, right? And so really didn't have much experience in freestyle. I grew up wrestling freestyle. Of course, I went to junior nationals every year, did the whole thing. But just making that jump from folk style to freestyle was a huge hurdle, right? So after 84, after I finished in 84, I just started really focusing on, and I knew I wanted to try to make the Olympic team. And that was my goal, to be an Olympic champion. And, but of course, I went to the 84 Olympic trials and I got fifth. But the battle was between Lee Kemp and Dave Schultz, right? So Lee was the guy. Lee was the guy. He made the Olympic team in 80, 3-time world champ. And so he was the guy that Dave had to overcome, right? And that was a changing of the guard for him.
Right.
Lee made the world team in 83, but decided not to go and beat Dave in the trials, decided not to go because he was in grad school and he was trying to finish his grad school degree or whatever. So he didn't go because he had exams to take or something. And so Dave went and won the world title in 83. And so had a lot of momentum coming back, ended up beating beating Lee in 84. And then, so he was the guy. And I talk to Lee Kemp all the time and we talk about the story and he really helped me kind of in my development as well. But then every year was just, I got, I wrestled 85 U.S. Open and I won that tournament. It's so funny. I lost to Mike Deanna in the 84 trials in the quarters. And I was mad at him because he deprived me of getting a chance to wrestle against Lee Kemp. Because I would have had Lee Kemp in the semis, lost to Deanna. He lost to Lee Kemp, and then of course Kemp lost to Schultz in the final. So I was mad. That's my only time to get to wrestle Lee Kemp. I never got to wrestle him. So I was pissed off. And so the next year I beat Deanna in the US Open finals in 1985. Dave wasn't at the trade. Dave, I think, was wrestling 180 that year or something. I don't know. And won it at 180, right? And so I beat Deanna in the finals, and that was his last. So I retired him. And then so I won 85. Then 86, I got second to Dave. And then 87 World Team Trials, I lost to Dave. And 87 was the last time I wrestled Dave. I beat him one match. He beat me two matches. And of course, I beat him in 88. But that mountain to climb just to kind of get that folk style out of my system and to get totally ingrained in freestyle was a huge mountain to climb. But then, of course, going to Russia a couple of times. I went to Russia and wrestled at the Tbilisi tournament in 1987. Got fifth. Dave Schultz won the tournament in 87. I came back the next year to Tbilisi. At that time, I think Dave was the 10th American to win the tournament in 87. I came back the next year. Dave didn't wrestle. He went, but he didn't wrestle in the tournament. He just went as a coach. He loves Russia, and they love him, whatever. I win that tournament, and Tbilisi went 10-0 on that tour. Because when you go on that tour, you have 3 dual meets, and then you wrestle 3 times. Then you have the tournament, which you wrestled. I had 7 matches. And so I went 10-0 on that tour. And at that point, I said, okay, I'm ready. I can win this thing. And then so that was kind of my climb. And then after that, of course, man, Dave. Also, I lost to Dave in '87. That was a lot. He beat me the first 3 times and that 4th time, and then I beat him 10 straight after that.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know for people listening. I mean, that Tbilisi tournament, that was considered tougher than the World Championships. At the time, right? It
was tougher because it was a Russian national tournament, right? And so that was during the Soviet Union time, so it wasn't. The republics wasn't broken up, right? So everybody was trying to make that team. And I tell people this story just because of what's going on in Russia and Ukraine now. I mean, I've wrestled Ukrainian wrestlers that were trying to make that Russian team, because all those republics were still trying to make the Russian team. And so you had to wrestle all those guys, and all those guys are probably 1 or 2 points away from each other, right? So every match was a freaking fight because they were trying to get on that team. You win that Tbilisi tournament, then you're on top of that ladder, or you're right there for the trials. Yeah. And so it was a dog fight, man. And at that time, those guys were poor, man. They were poor. So to win, to make a world team in Russia or make the team in Russia, you money, gave you a little more, opportunities to make more money. Those guys were really poor during that time, So, but that was kind of my coming out party. When I won that tournament, I knew I could win the world.
It's crazy to look at that whole Soviet conglomerate and like all those different countries that are they now all get to compete, right?
Yeah, they all get to.
And back then it was just one guy.
It was just the one, and that's the one thing that's different, right? Is you had the only you got to the tournament, the World Championship, the Olympics, you only had to worry about that one Russian. Now you got Uzbekistan, you got all these different republics, that you got to deal with, and so that's the difference. You may have 4 or 5. They're all Russian. People give me a hard time when I said Ukrainians are just like Russians, but they were. They speak Russian. They have the culture, and they definitely wrestle like Russians. And so to me, they're all Russian. So that's the difference. They're all tough as crap.
I love it. Stayed hot in '89, won your world title, and then stayed on to the Olympics in '92.
But don't go too far above that world title because that dude was a monster. That Fadzaev was a freaking monster.
Where's he from?
He's a Russian. Russian Fadzaev.
I forgot they're all Russians. My bad.
No, this dude had never lost an international match. He had never lost in world championships. He's one of the greatest, in my opinion. He's one of the greatest ever. Russian wrestlers and Fadzaev, and I used to watch him. He's 49, and it's so funny. I wrestled him, and I had forgot I wrestled him when I was in college. I was a junior in college, and these guys were getting ready for the '84 Olympics and trials and the whole thing. The Russian team came through Stillwater, and we had a dual meet. I'm a junior, and so I wrestled in this dual meet against Fadzaev, and I didn't even. That time I didn't really know who he was. I'm in college. I'm not paying attention to that thing. I go back and watch the videotapes, and I wrestled Fadzaev when I was a junior in college. And I came out, took him down twice. And then he went on a run and beat me like 11-4 or something. Wow. Shit. Yeah, but I didn't even realize it was him, right? And but yeah, so then of course years later, I wrestled him in the world finals, but he was a monster. He came up to my weight class, and of course, you go back through and look at some matches, and I wonder why he came up, right? Because Varayev, the guy I had in the finals, was world champ. He was just as good, but Fadzaev beat him in the trials, and that's why they sent him, right? I guess he felt like he wanted to go up and and quit cutting weight or whatever. But he beat Varayev in the trials, and years later, after the Olympic, after all those matches. I see these matches come up with him and Fadzaev and Varayev, and it was a freaking battle. But Fadzaev beat him, and so maybe that's why he made the team. And I didn't even know that he was in my weight class until we get to it was maybe 20 minutes before weigh-ins, Leroy Smith was the national team coach, comes up to me and said, "Hey, Fadzaev is in your weight class." And I'm like, "What? Fadzaev's up in my weight class?" I was like, wow, it kind of blew my mind that they put him up there, right? Because of course I watched him, study these guys come through, and this guy he was amazing. But my first thought was, he's a 49 pounder.
Yeah.
Right?
Because he won gold in 88 at 68 kilos. 49. He won gold in 92 at 49.
Yeah.
So I can see your confusion there. That's weird.
And world championships in between those.
Right.
And he would smash Metzger. Metzger was tough, man. And Metzger never beat him. He would smash Metzger. He would smash Nate. Mm-hmm. And so he was very formidable. But then my first thought was like, man, he's too small. Because at that point, I was pretty much dominating all the 49 pounders. At that point, Nate had cut down to 40. I was dominating Nate. I was beating Nate up. So all those 49 pounders really in the U.S. couldn't really wrestle with me, right? And so I'm like, I'm gonna smash this kid. But then when I started watching his early matches, he's like going through the guys that a couple of guys that I kind of would have tough matches with. He was kind of going through them. I'm like, oh shit, this guy must be he must be really the real deal, right?
Yeah, he knows how to wrestle.
Yeah. No, he's tough, man. He's tough. So that was a really, really big match in my career. Probably one of the best matches ever.
Nice. Now, did Fadzaev hang in there until 96 as well? Like I was at the 96 Olympics and he wrestled up there as well, correct?
He did. But he had wrestled it wasn't Rush. He wrestled for someone else. And I'm not for sure how that all played out. But
yeah,
he was kind of at the end of his career, but he did wrestle 96.
Yeah, I have memories of that down in Atlanta watching the Olympics that he was still in there for that as well, which was amazing. He was still around.
Yeah.
So as we talk about this guy, I'm sitting here looking at his credentials, and you're talking about 83 world champ, 85 world champ, 86 world champ, 87 world champ, 88 Olympic gold champ.
Yeah. No,
and then lost to you in 89, came back 90, went back down to 68.
Went back down.
Yeah. Went back down to 68.
You sent him back down to where he belonged.
Went back down.
Gold in 90, gold in 91, gold in 92. So
he went back down, and the reason he went back down was because of me. Because I can promise you, if he'd have beat me, he'd have stayed up.
Yep,
for sure.
Right?
Stayed up.
You sent him back down. To
like wasn't like he was too small, right? I mean, people like, oh, money was too. No, dude, he weighed in like I did, and at that point, I was only getting up to like 71, 72, and so it wasn't like I was like roaring like 180 against him.
Right.
That wasn't the case.
Right.
That's
he was just thinking, shit, I gotta cut again. I'm not facing this best.
Right.
Because everybody loves cutting weight, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So what was your last year that you finished competing, Kenny? What was your last go? 96 Olympics was your last go?
Yep, 96. I was 35, and at that point, man, I was like had pretty much done everything in the sport. I won all my tournaments. I don't think it was a tournament out there I didn't win. I won just about. I give my kids a hard time. I say I won all my tournaments. So
they love hearing
at one
that.
point, I won all the tournaments, and so I just felt like it was time to kind of on and get on with my life. And I had kids, at that time. So I got married in 1993, and so it was. I was at the end. Had done everything.
So you proceeded to kind of go into coaching.
Yep.
What was the first coaching gig?
First coaching gig, of course, I coached throughout the whole time I was competing at Oklahoma State.
Sure.
So that was really, we were coaching a lot. I coached Chris Barnes. He was a two-time national champ.
Yeah, 177 pounder.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so that was my guy, right? That was, as I was training, I was coaching as well. So all through the 90s, I was coaching. And then 1992, when Oklahoma State went through that NCAA violations period, and they fired Joe Say. Me and John was co-head coaches of that 92 team. And then Chris Barnes was on it when the coach was on. And so went through that time, and then, of course, and it was really a tough time to go through. People don't realize how tough it was for us to maintain, this team and train, because it was it was a tough thing to go through. The NC violations. It was tough. It was they took all those kids through a process where it was like they were criminals, interviewing them, and it was really a bad thing. And so it was really bad to just to maintain it. I tell you, we had great teams. We won 89 and 90 back to back, in national titles. We would have won probably the next 5 in a row. I mean, the team that we had and the work that we were doing at that point was it was an amazing environment. It was an amazing time. And we were clearly just outworking everybody in the world, right? And they can say what they want to say, but those teams were great. We had great teams, and Alan Freed, and of course Pat Smith came through there, and so we had great teams, man. The Perlers. We had great teams, and it just didn't work out. But then, so after I left in '93, and I got married and kind of got out of wrestling, kind of wanted to get away from wrestling a little bit. And there was a lot that was going on with the whole DuPont saga and that whole thing. Yeah. So it was really kind of a tough period that we were going through with USA Wrestling. So I kind of wanted to get some time away, and kind of hurt my elbow in the 1992 Olympic Games. Like 5 people know the story, some people don't. But 5 days before the 1992 Olympic Games, I hurt my elbow in practice, and it was a bad dislocation, and then I didn't know if I was going to wrestle in the 92 Olympic Games. And then so treatment every day, elbow kind of came back. I was probably about 75%. My arm was about 75% in the Olympic Games, and had a great tournament. I didn't get scored. I got 1 point scored on me the whole tournament, and that was in the finals, the point that beat me. So I needed some time off after 92. So I got married and took some time off, and then I knew I wanted to wrestle in the Olympics, because it was in Atlanta. So I pretty much took 3 years off, and I came back in 95 and then made the team in 96, and then probably should have came back a little earlier because I wasn't quite there in 96, but I was good enough to make the team, and I was good enough. I lost in the semis to Satiev, of course. But after that, I just kind of got into a couple of businesses. I had a Subway, I owned a Subway, I owned a coffee shop. So just living in Tulsa, just running businesses and that kind of thing. And then I kind of got the bug back again, and I got hired to go run a club in Texas. Steve Silver owns a huge furniture company in Texas. He had some boys coming up looking for a coach. Kind of ran into him at the Tulsa Nationals. Hired me to come to Tulsa, to Texas, and run a club, kids club. So I went to Texas, took the job. It was a great job, great opportunity. So I ran a club for 10 years in Texas. I had kids coming out, and actually we went to high school with Bishop Lynch. Ended up getting third 3 times in a row behind Blair Academy at the Prep Nationals, and sent kids to college. And so it was really a great experience for me to coach those kids. And so I did that for 10 years. And then after that, 2010, I went back to Oklahoma State. Was talking to John. He's looking for a club coach. Went back to Oklahoma State to be the club coach at Oklahoma State. That's when I started coaching Coleman Scott. So I coached him for a few years, and then coached him through the Olympics to a bronze medal. And I was there for those 3 years.
Took a stint into, and this is a funny story for me. Took a stint into MMA.
Yep.
Went down to Florida for a little while and did that.
Yep.
And I don't know, I doubt you remember this. You are responsible for the one UFC event that I've ever attended.
Really?
You were coaching down there, and you gave 2 tickets to our guy Tom Erickson. Mm-hmm. And Tom and I went down to Indianapolis and hung out and watched the fights down at what was then Banker's Life. Yeah. And so you came up. I remember thanking you and appreciating the whole thing. It was a surreal experience because you know what it's like hanging out with Tom at those things. It was right. Everybody knows who he is, and they're stopping him every 10 feet for an autograph or a photo or whatnot. But that was that was a pretty cool night.
I was cornering. Yeah, I forget who I was cornering. I was cornering a heavyweight. I forget a man's name. I forget who that was. I was cornering a guy that wrestled and they coached him at Black Zillions. And so that was an interesting thing. They came after me, and that was right after 2013 Olympics, and they came after me, man, and just kind of made me an offer. I mean, they offered me, couple $100,000 to come coach that team. So I went down there to Florida. Exactly. Maybe an offer I couldn't refuse, man.
Sure.
So I said, I can do this for you. And I love the game. I love MMA. I love the game, right? So I had one fight, and I knew at that point, when I started seeing that the sport evolve, I knew that it was going to be a big sport. I knew it was going to grow. I knew it was going to be amazing. Just because what the sport is, it's mixed martial arts. So it's all the the martial arts combined. And I knew wrestlers was going to dominate the sport at some point. Because really, to me, back when I even started wrestling, I realized that wrestling was a martial art. It protected me on the playgrounds. I was a bully killer. I couldn't get bullied as a kid, because and then I got to represent, I ain't fighting that kid. He wrestles, right? so I knew long ago, man, that wrestling was a great martial art. I had kids that did karate, and I could take those kids down, and they couldn't get up, right? So, but so no, I love the game, and then went down there and coached those guys. I coached, Rashad Evans and Vitor Belfort and Usman. The champ right now was on the team. He wasn't even in the UFC. So Coach Tim and Gilbert Burns was in the UFC. He wasn't in the UFC at that point. So Coach Tim, Eddie Alvarez. So we had an incredible team. It was really fun. I learned a lot, and so funny. Did that for a few years, and then that kind of fell through, and I moved back to Texas to coach Johnny Hendricks for a couple of years. But it's so funny. I tell this story, and kind of why I'm at SPIRE. I met Ray Lewis one day after practice when I was down in Florida coaching MMA, right? Coaching the Black Zillions. So one day after practice, I take my car to the car wash, which is about 2 blocks from my gym where we practice. So I'm at the gym in Boca Raton, at the car wash. Turn my car in. I look around. I see this big white Rolls Royce coming through. I'm like, it's a nice car. I wonder whose that is. So I turn my car and I look around, and then it was a beautiful day, sometime. So I look over at the table. There's Ray Lewis. I'm like, wow, to myself. And I was by myself. I'm like, man, it goes Ray Lewis. I'm talking to myself. I'm like, kind of getting the nerve up to approach the guy, right? Some people don't want to be bothered, whatever. So I go, I'm going. So I went, hey, Ray, how you doing? Kenny Monday. Nice to meet you, man. I'm a big fan. Been watching your career forever, man. Congratulations. He had just retired. He looks up at me and goes, Kenny Monday? I go, yeah. He goes, Kenny Monday, the wrestler? I go, yeah. He gets up and give me a big hug, man. He's like, man, you're my hero. You're my hero. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, man, I've been watching you since I was a kid in high school. He was a state champ in Florida, right?
Yeah.
And I remember this call. His coach called me when I was getting ready for the 92 Olympic Games. I was in deep training. I was training hard. It was probably a month after the Olympic trials. He calls me up and goes, hey, man, I got this. And he got my number. Hey, I got this kid. He's a great football player, but he's wrestling for me, and I think he can win state. So I've been showing him your tapes, and I've been talking to him about you and this whole thing. Can you come out and do a camp and work with him a little bit? Like, man, I wish I could. I'm in training. I got the trials next month, so I really can't. I don't have time to get away. He goes, all right, man, well, good luck. But this kid's going to be something special. That was Ray Lewis.
That's awesome.
And I had no idea. But I remember the phone call. But I remember the coach from Florida calling me, but I didn't know that was Ray Lewis he was talking about. So I told Ray, so Ray told me, so we told the story. I'm like, oh, man, that was you? I said, wow. And so that's how I met Ray Lewis. That was in 2013. And so we just kind of kept in contact through the years and, kind of would text back and forth. And he goes, man, I miss wrestling. I go, yeah. I said, well, dude, my gym is right down the street. Come check us out. He comes that next week with his wrestling shoes. I'm like, Ray. He said, yeah, man, I want to roll around a little bit.
Love it.
Said, all right. And so we rolled, man. We rolled for about 20 minutes, and Rose, he still has some skills. Right?
I was going to say, could he still roll a little bit with you?
Yeah, he can roll. Yeah, he was trying to take me. He was trying to give me two. He was trying to get a takedown, but I wouldn't give him no takedown. I'm like, nah, you ain't get no takedown, right? Nope. So after the match, after we go, man, you bad. You're a bad boy, man. You're a bad boy. Because he was trying to get me, man. He was strong. Yeah. I wouldn't give him no takedown, right? He said,
Ray wanted that story.
Huh?
Ray wanted that story. He wanted to be able to tell people I took that
Monday. Exactly.
No,
I wasn't giving no takedown. You wasn't having it, right? And so I took him down like 20 times, whatever. But
that is awesome.
Yeah, man, that was good. It was good. So we stayed in contact with him. So he is like a minority owner here at SPIRE Academy. So when he came in and he met the guy, the new owner, who's been the owner for 2 years. He met the guy in Baltimore because the owner lives in Baltimore. Jonathan lives in Buffalo. So him and Ray met. And so Ray hit me up and goes, man, I've got a great opportunity. This was at the Olympic trials of the last 22 Olympic trials, 2020 Olympic trials. We're right at the tournament. And Ray hits me up out of nowhere. Hey, I got this great opportunity I want you to look at. And he showed me the pictures and showed me everything about SPIRE Academy. And so he brought it to me. He said, man, let's do this. I'm the owner. I want to make this thing work. I told them that we need to start a wrestling program. And I got just the guy you need to go get. And so that kind of, he hit me with it. And so we met. And so they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And here I am.
Wow.
It's awesome.
That's quite the deal. Yeah, that is
Ray,
awesome.
Yeah, Ray Lewis is what brought me, turned me on to SPIRE Academy.
That's wild.
Yep.
Now,
So
I definitely want to talk about what you got going there at SPIRE in a minute, but
yeah.
I don't want to get past, you talk about Coleman Scott. He brought you to, you came to UNC.
Yes.
And there's some connections now with the Tar Heels. What's it like? What's it like coaching and working with your two boys?
Mm-hmm. Got him right over your shoulder, right there.
Yep, right there. Those two. And then having to go to the stands and watch from there. Like, what's that transition been like for you?
Yeah, it's been great, man. I mean, I love it. I love that the boys are where they are, right? Introduce them to the game back when they were 6 years old. And, you just never know. Because I got friends, that kids don't wrestle. Bruce Baumgartner kids that never wrestle. Kevin Jack's kids wrestle for a little bit. Then they never really kind of got to that level. So it's not a given. And you just never know if the kid's going to take to the sport. We love the sport and know how good it is and how great it is for people. You just never know, So, but they introduced them to the sport, man, and it was good that I had a club team. When I was in Texas, I had that club team, coaching kids, and so they were introduced early. When they were 1 or 2 years old. We moved to Texas, they were 1 and 2 years old. And so they would just come to practice with me and be around the kids. So the kids would, play with them and wrestle them, that whole thing. And so then when they got of age, I was able to coach them during those in their early years, right? So it kind of gave them, some good fundamentals when they started. So that was just really a good thing that was part of the reason I kind of took the job too. Just I knew that they were going to come up, and so that was a good introduction. And so I coached them all the way up, right? And so it was good to be able to hand them off to somebody else and let someone else coach. And I don't have a problem with that. I think, both coaches are good. And I got a great relationship with Coleman when it came time down for. So when Coleman, honestly, he got a bronze medal and he started looking at jobs, that kind of thing. And he said, if I ever get a job, I want you to come in and be my RTC coach. And so sure enough, that kind of happened at UNC and he got the job. He called me right away. Hey, I got this job. I want you to come be my RT. So, and then it just kind of worked out that kind of Kennedy was coming through that at that point, and of course he looked at Oklahoma State, looked at other places, and then kind of worked out that he actually got recruited before I got the job at UNC. Kennedy, Coleman got on, and Coach Coleman was at Stillwater. Of course, we were training, and he was kind of working in the club program, so he was actually coaching Kennedy and Quincy in their club.
Okay.
And so he kind of had, he knew those guys from that, and we all went to the Olympics and so in Washington, so they knew I was training Coleman. So we had that relationship. We're like family. And so when that happened, we went to UNC, and that kind of was really good. And it's so funny that first year, Kenny was a freshman. They won a national title. UNC won the basketball title that freshman year. That first year we were in Chapel Hill, they won the tournament. So that was really fun to be a part of. But no, it was good, man. It's good that I was able to be around them and watch their development. When it came time for Quincy to go to Princeton, it was a tough decision. It came down between UNC and Princeton, and he didn't want to pass up the opportunity to go to an institution like Princeton. So kind of did that, and that's kind of how it kind of came about. Yeah, exactly. You can't look back and say, man, but the one thing that was the key component about going to Princeton was the coaching staff that they had, right? Love Joe, love Ayers, love Nate, love these guys, great. But when I saw, Kolazic was an All-American, because it's not easy, man, going to an Ivy school and then still competing at that level. You don't see it. I mean, of course, first year ever, they had 2 finalists, right, at Princeton. And so I knew that he wanted to go to the school, but then also when I saw Collegiately was an All-American, I said, Quincy, if this kid can be an All-American, you can do it, right? It ain't gonna be easy, but you can still be a national champion at Princeton, right? They got the ingredients. They know what they're doing. These guys want to win. It's not just about academics. They want to win. And so I think you got my blessing to go, because I knew if he would have just went to an Ivy League school and they weren't competing at that level, he wasn't going to be happy, because he wants to win too. Right. So he wanted it all.
Yep.
But growing up, we knew he was going to be, able to go to an Ivy just from his academics from the time he grew up, right? He's always been a very great student. And so we knew he was going to have that opportunity. So when it came time to do that, that was really the reason that I was great with it, because I knew that he could win there. Yep. And so that's kind of good. But it's good watching him, man. It's so fun. I mean, this year was so much fun. And of course, you got your guys' coaches, I love him and Quincy wrestling. They wrestled back in I think it was the Ironman, they wrestled for the first time in high school. And so I knew those guys were having some tough battles. Yep.
Midlands a couple years ago. They wrestled at Midlands. I think
they've wrestled each other a couple times. They wrestled in high school, and then Midlands, I believe. They wrestled at Midlands for their fifth place match.
2019. So
now for the third place match. I think
third.
Yeah. So it's funny, Kenny, you talk about your boys and you talk about them coming up, and I immediately made me think of Tony's twins, because you talk about it's not a given that they're going to wrestle, right? Yeah. And Tony's got one wrestler and he's got one swimmer. He got a kid he can't keep out of the pool.
Right.
You never know. I mean, you're exactly right. Kenny, I'd love them both to have workout partners for life, with my twin boys wrestling. But as Tanner said, one's in the pool and I can't get him out, and he loves competing, but he loves competing in the pool.
Yeah. We got an incredible, we got an incredible swimming program here. We got probably one of the best. You got to take a look at it. One of the best pools. I mean, it's amazing. I've never seen any pool this big, right? But we've got camps here all the time. It's really a great. We got the Olympic champ comes in here time and does camps, and so we really got a great swimming program. So if you ever want to get your boy,
we'll have to check it out
for a camp. That's good, man. It's really good. It's really good.
Absolutely.
But for me, it was like, and when the kids started, right? It was always that first time, right? Because it's coming. When they shoot at the same time and they hit heads and they almost knock each other out, if they can survive that first hard knock, you think you're gonna be okay, right? Because I remember the moment. when they shot, boom, they fell down and and if they get up, and that's the moment. That's the telltale moment if they're gonna be wrestlers, right? And so I remember when it both happened for both of them. And they was down, and I said, "Oh, you all right? You okay?" Yeah. Okay, get up. All right, shake it up. And they get back in there. Okay, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna be all right.
All right.
Didn't knock enough sense into them.
Right. We're gonna be okay. They're gonna be wrestlers.
So I got a fun question for you, Kenny.
Yep.
What was more nerve-wracking? Getting ready for your NCAA finals match or getting ready for Quincy's NCAA finals match? Which one was tougher on you?
Definitely Quincy's. Yeah, definitely Quincy's, man. Because I don't, I can control what happens out there, right? I can't, and so I didn't get that kind of nervous when I wrestled, right? I get butterflies, but, as soon as I hit hands, those things are gone, right? So I can control that. The boys, I can't control what happens out there. I can't wrestle for them, right? So no, I'm definitely more nervous when they wrestle. But it's interesting. That's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic, because I'm more nervous when Kennedy wrestles than I am for Quincy, just because of their personalities. Quincy's solid, but he's rock solid. He never gets too high. He never gets too low, and I know what I'm getting with Quincy. Kennedy is just kind of the opposite. I don't know which one's going to show up, right? I don't know. He gets so emotional, right? Sometimes his emotions kind of overtake him, and he has a bad match. And it's so funny because they get in the room, and it wasn't until they were like probably in college before they could really wrestle and get a real good, productive practice. Like, because growing up is always like Kennedy was big brother, and they end up fighting or end up arguing. He just couldn't get through it, right? Now they can get to practice, right? But it wasn't until they were in college that they could do that, right?
That's funny.
You know, so just because last year we had Quincy, I had Quincy home because the Ivans didn't compete. So last year I had him home in Chapel Hill the whole year. You know, so I trained him that whole year last year. And of course I was training Jordan Oliver, and Quincy was probably Jordan's most consistent workout partner while we had him home. And but him and Kenny would wrestle, and Kenny would still get him, right? He still get the best of Quincy, right? And so just that big brother thing, you know, they go back, they have good workouts, but Kenny would still kind of get the best of them, right? And so it's funny how that works out. But yeah, it's that whole dynamic is a little different. But Quincy, I pretty much know what I'm gonna get when he wrestles. And he's not the kid's gonna beat himself. If you beat Quincy, you got to beat him. You got to beat him. Right? He ain't gonna beat himself.
Yep.
I'm a little less nervous.
It's funny how that works out.
I know, right?
Your coaching career has kind of come full circle. You're back in the high school, back working with, you know, sort of the beginning level, the early levels of the sport. It seems like obviously you love the sport and you love being an ambassador for it. Really, how much are you enjoying your new gig at SPIRE?
Man, I love it. I love it because it's a huge challenge. You know, I think, you know, we got a great team. I mean, they're really, you know, excited about the program. It's a brand new program. But I'm excited just to be able to get back on the level and start, you know, reinvesting in the kids. And one of the reasons I took the job just because, you know, my boys are pretty much on their way, right? I mean, Kennedy is done, and Quincy is got one more year at college, and so they're on they're men. And so they're on their way, right? And Quincy's pre-med, and he's doing this thing, and they're pretty much on their way. And so now I feel like I've got the time to kind of come back and reinvest in kids, and I see where the gap is on that level as far as high school kids getting to college. And so it's just an opportunity, man, to come back and pour into kids and build young men and women and just sell the dream. You know, I'm living a dream. You know, I know what wrestling did for my life, and it's taken me all over the world, and it's made me the man I am today. It's provided for my family. And so it's just about trying to give back to the sport, you know, and try to get kids on that next level, right? And just kind of build something. And it's just unique here at SPIRE just because it's something that really hadn't been done before, you know, as far as a boarding school that we have. It's a brand new program, so I get to kind of build it from scratch, which is the huge challenge. And then like I can go in the hallway and pluck kids out of the hallway, you know, to come, hey, why don't you come? I need a 25-pounder, why don't you come wrestle? You know, so I gotta reach out, I gotta go get these kids. But it's a unique environment just because it's kind of like an Olympic training center. We got basketball, we got track and field, we got swimming, we got just added lacrosse. We do soccer camps, we do volleyball camps. And so it's a unique environment because every student here is an athlete. And so all the teachers, you know, recognize that, and they work with the athletes, not against the athletes. And so it's just about creating that Olympic Olympic village kind of feel. And so that's that. Yep. And so we do events. We're hosting the U23s here in June. We've done the defense duels, middle school duels. So we're doing events. We're doing camps. You know, we'll probably have you know, some senior level athletes coming here to train at one point. My goal and my vision is to have, you know, an outstanding high school program. We also got post-grad opportunities. So kids for that, you know, that post-grad year that kids aren't quite ready to go to college. I can train them here for a year, or we'll get them trained up, you know, in that post-grad year. And then we also have, you know, at some point I'll have some senior level kids, women and men wrestling training here as well, because the facility is, I mean, we got everything. You know, we got everything as far as, you know, we have an incredible strength and conditioning program. We got great food. You know, we got great dorms. We're in the process of building a Marriott hotel on site. With a Starbucks, you know, so
that's big for Tony. Starbucks is big for Tony.
Big for me.
Exactly,
Starbucks is big.
It's big, and so everywhere I go, all over the country, you'll find me at a Starbucks all over the world, right?
Yeah.
And so, no, I'm excited, man. The guy is very, you know, very visionary. the vision that we have for this place is remarkable. 5 years from now, it'll be a totally different look, right? So my vision is to have this be a wrestling destination. Any of you guys want to bring your team up, man? And that's another thing too. I've got the ability to have extended training. So if a kid wants to come, say just train for a month. We got a classroom setting. We'll take it through as long as his school can do virtual learning. We got a setup that he can come in and do his classwork and then just train, right?
Oh, wow.
So we got that ability to do that as well. So it's a unique opportunity, man. I'm just excited because I think, my goal and my dream, even back when I was in college, is like I wanted to be able to create an environment there. A kid can come, train, and whatever level he's wrestling at, he can compare. Whether it's state, or national, or train for the Olympic Games. So that's kind of the environment that we want to create here.
That's exciting, and I'm looking forward to coming out. We'll have a lot of our team out there for U23, so we'll get to see it here in early June. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, that'll be fun, man. We have to get some lunch or something, man, and it's gonna be fun to have them here because we got a huge facility. Now to show you when you come in, I'll show you the pool and everything.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. I'll hit you up when we're coming in and take a tour if we can. If that's
I'll push him in.
Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, push him in.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna push him in. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been up there a couple times for Big Ten track and field championships.
Yeah.
It's a great facility.
Big Ten was just here.
Yep.
Big Ten was just here.
It's an amazing place.
That was fun. Yeah, that was fun. And Caleb Dresser comes here. The Olympic champion comes here. He comes here all the time and does like clinics and that kind of thing. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing place.
This will be exciting to sit here in a little bit, then, boys.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Well, Kenny, we really appreciate your time. This has been a blast. I hope it's been half as much fun as it has for you.
Oh, absolutely, man. Anytime we can come in and we can talk wrestling, kind of chew that around, man. I got so many stories. I got so many stories that
I can only imagine.
That
need to be told. Yep. I'm writing a book too. I'm writing a book in the middle of writing a book, and I got some really good stories to tell, and so that's coming out pretty soon.
Corey just wrote a book.
Yeah. Who?
Is that right?
Corey, my man Corey right here. He just published it. I got it on my desk.
Not easy.
Oh,
not my desk. That's my man right there.
You have to send me that, man. You have to send me your book.
I'll get you a copy.
You have to give me a copy, man, because it ain't easy. It's not easy. It really isn't. But I'm excited for it, man. I'm excited for SPIRE Academy, and I've got a wrestling shoe coming out pretty soon with Rudis, and we're in the process of putting that thing together, man. So I'm excited about that. First shoe ever, and probably should have one a long time ago, but we got one coming out. You guys, have you watched the documentary with Rudis yet?
No, I've not seen the doc.
Go check that out.
Yeah, Rudis is starting to do some like programming, kind of similar to like what Flo does with the docu-series and whatnot. And I have seen the trailer for it, Kenny, but I haven't watched the whole thing.
Go check it out, man. It's really interesting.
Huh. And really, Kenny, you got a lot of irons in the fire, man. You're trying to build a program. You're trying to write a book. You got a lot going on right now, huh?
Got to get it done, man. I got to get it done before I check out of here. I'm 60 years old, man. I'm 60 years old, and I can still take most people down.
Yep.
I can get one or two in. It's so funny. I was at the Olympic Training Center not too long ago, and I was rolling with Jaden Cox, man. And I was like, man, this dude, I don't know how he loses. I do not know how he loses. But then I watch it with Kyle Snyder. I say, okay, I see that. But it's so funny because I've been talking to Kyle a lot. We've been really communicating here lately because he saw the documentary. Of course, he's Rudis, so he saw the doc, and he's trying to pick up my lateral drop, right? So he calls me. He's like, "Coach, what are you doing here? What are you looking for?" So we've really been talking about a lot about that, and then I'm helping him with his doubles, his open shots, and so he's supposed to come out here pretty soon and train a little bit with me. So I can still move around a little bit. I feel good. My shoulders are good. My neck's good, and so I'm gonna do this, man, until I can't do it. Until I can't. When I can't wrestle, then you'll see me retire from coaching and all that.
Well, that is awesome.
And thanks again. We'll let you go. We'll let you go get some other stuff done.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Look forward to seeing you guys in June, man.
Absolutely. We're excited to come out and see it and take a peek with you and hear more about it. But thank you again for your time. This was great.
You guys, you guys do a great job, man. I love it.
Appreciate it.
All right, take care.
All right. That'll do it for this week on the Always Aggressive podcast. We'll catch you down the road. Boiler up.
All right, man. Peace.